Hey house guests, welcome to today's Big Brother 21 updates and spoilers. Our house guests of the day are Ken Wong, Kevin Lang, and Kevin McPherson. Thank you all so much for the support. We could not do this without you, and we really appreciate it. So thank you again. And if you guys want to be house guests of the day, check out our Patreon link in the info box below. Alright, so when we left off yesterday, the feeds were down for the power veto competition, and they stayed down for about 5.5 hours. Everyone was playing except for Holly. So when the feeds came back on, the house was trash. Brr, 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 brr. It was a mess because, as predicted, it was the hide and go veto competition, and Tommy won the power veto. So it was time for them to all pitch in to clean up the mess. They're all talking about their hiding spots. This is what I'm pretty sure this is where they all hid theirs, but I could be wrong. So Tommy's was definitely in the mattress of the round bed in the target room. Jess's was under her own bed. That one was found pretty quickly. Jackson hid his, I want to say, under that pile of wood in the RV room by the little, like, what's that thing called? Fire pit? It's not a fire pit because it's inside. I guess wood burning stove? There you go. Christy hid hers under the bathroom rug. Cliff's was somewhere in the bathroom area. And Nicole, I'm not sure, because I think Nicole said she had a couple spots in mind, and then Big Brother was like, you can't go here, 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 here. And she was like, oh, those are all my spots. So she had to come up with something, and it didn't work. Okay, so anyway, Jackson and Cliff were in the storage room. Remember how I told you guys that Cliff and Jackson, before the competition, before they even knew if it was definitely going to be hide and go veto, they were going around the house talking about potential hiding spots. And guess what? Even after that, Jackson found Cliff's veto. What the F? So Jackson keeps saying that he thought Cliff was saying buck room, not bathroom. So he wasn't really looking in the buck room, but then he found it in the bathroom. So Cliff says, you know what, it's gonna be okay. At least Jess didn't win because that is our target this week. So even if I go up on the block, we'll have the votes. It's gonna be okay. So Jackson and Cliff both say that they think that Tommy will leave the nominations the same. Because that'll ensure that a girl is evicted this week. Okay, so then Jackson talks to Tommy in the kitchen, and Christy ends up joining them as well. And Jackson says, I would like the nominations to stay the same to ensure that Jess goes this week. And he says, let's not even allow the possibility of a tiebreaker. And Tommy says, wait, but you would be the one breaking the tie. And Jackson says, yeah, I know. I don't want to have to do that. Like, he doesn't want to have to send someone to the jury vote knowing that he broke the tie for them to go. So Tommy says, well, if I use the POV on Christy, I'm giving you my word that I will vote however you want me to vote. And Christy agrees to do the same. So they decide they're going to talk about it more later. What's there to talk about? Tommy's going to use the veto on Christy. Come on. It's a no-brainer. So a little while later, I mean to us, maybe not necessarily to them, but a little later, Tommy and Jackson chat in the HOH room. And Tommy's like, so you don't want me to use it? And Jackson says, I don't care, as long as I don't have to break a tie. He says this like a million times. I don't want to break a tie. I don't want to have to break a tie. But he's cool with putting up Cliff or Nicole. And he also makes it clear that he wants Jess to be the one to go. So Tommy says, oh, I love our four, meaning Tommy, Christy, Jackson, and Holly. And he says he's so gung-ho about it, but he knows that Jackson and Holly have each other. And he says Christy is pretty much all he has now. You know, that's like his person now. So he wants to make sure that she is guaranteed safety, because you never know what could happen through the week. True. So he says, yeah, I'm thinking about taking her down. And Jackson again is saying, it's cool, it's cool. Oh, excuse me. I just don't want to have to break a tie. We know! So Tommy promises again he will vote however Jackson wants. So Jackson says, I would really rather go up against Nicole and Cliff in these final competitions than Jess, because he's not really confident in his mental comp abilities. And Jackson says, I think, you know, the rest of the house probably feels this way too. And Tommy's like, do they though? You know, he says, you know, I get it, I'll do what you want. But like, Tommy says it kind of scares him that Cliff and Nicole are a duo. And not just a duo, but a power duo. But again, he is saying that he will do what Jackson wants. I think he's trying to plant little seeds there though. Seeds of doubt about Cliff and Nicole. So then Tommy goes to the RV room to talk to Jess, and he lets her know, just a heads up, I'm probably going to use the veto on Christy. And Jess says, that's awesome. You can tell she's just like dying on the inside. So Tommy says, hopefully it's going to give you a chance to stay as well, because we'll get somebody else up on the block. You know, you never know what could happen with the votes. Maybe we could get somebody to flip. But Jess says, honestly, I'm really happy about it. Like, good for you. Okay, so then Nicole was alone in the RV room at one point, and she's asking Big Brother to call her to the diary room. She says, I'm putting the pieces together in my head, and it's very discouraging. She says, I think they're trying to screw over Cliff. They meaning Jackson and Holly. Because earlier, Cliff did let her know that he told Jackson about his hiding spot ahead of time, and Jackson found his veto. So what the hell is going on there? So Nicole is afraid that this was all a setup to get rid of Cliff, and that the other four are all working together. She says it just doesn't make sense that Jackson would find Cliff's veto unless Jackson and Holly have a final four with Tommy and Christy. So Nicole's asking Big Brother again, please call me to the diary room. She says she's gonna lose it, and she doesn't want to lose it in front of everyone, right? She doesn't want Jackson and Holly to know how paranoid she is about them right now. So she says she's severely anxious, and Big Brother comes through and calls her to the diary room. Whew. Okay, so everyone was kind of just doing their own thing for a little while, and then the feeds mysteriously went down for about an hour, and it appears the house guests were on an HOH lockdown. I feel like Big Brother was probably just fixing stuff that got messed up during the power veto competition, because you know there's always like furniture that gets damaged and like doors that break, whatever. So I think they were just kind of taking care of those things. So after the HOH lockdown, whoo, there is still trouble on Showmance Island. When the feeds come back, Jackson is asking Holly, do you want to move your stuff out of the HOH room? Oh my god! And she's asking him, is that what you want? You want me to move my stuff out? And Jackson says, I don't care. So it seems like Holly is trying to talk through things with Jackson. She's trying to initiate a conversation here, and he is avoiding it for now. But I'm telling you, it's gonna pop off. So a little later, Holly is alone on the hammock. She is really upset. She's very quiet around everybody else. Like, you can tell she is not herself right now. On the other hand, Jackson's like, hey guys, like super chill, super buddy, like overly nice to everyone else except for Holly. That's pretty crappy. So Jackson and Cliff were chatting in the patio area, and Jackson's telling Cliff, I want to give you as much reassurance as possible. If you go up on the block, you're gonna be okay. Like, I want to go to the final four with you and Nicole. No mention of Holly. No, he's still, you know, he's planning on including Holly in on that, but he just didn't mention her name that time. So Cliff says, we're good, we're ride or die. If I can't trust the other people in my group right now, then I'm screwed anyway. So it is what it is. There's not much he can do at this point except for trust Jackson. So Jackson says, I'm still gonna try and convince Tommy not to use the power veto this week. So he's really gonna push the whole guy angle and not risking losing another guy. He wants to make sure that Tommy doesn't figure out that they have a four with Holly and Nicole. Come on! Tommy has been onto your shit for a long time now. So Cliff is like, I don't think anyone suspects anything, and Jackson agrees. Stop Okay, so then Cliff checks in with Nicole, and he says, I talked to Jackson, and Jackson told me that Tommy was saying he might not use the power veto. Like, it's not a lock that he's going to use it on Christy. He's going to use it. But Nicole says, I don't know, I just have a really weird feeling. She's very nervous about how this week is going to play out. So Cliff says, Jackson kept pushing Final Four to me. He said, we're going to the Final Four. They shook on it. This is what we're doing. But he's a little bit nervous that if he does go up on the block, that Holly could just flip her vote on him at the last second and be all like, Jackson doesn't tell me how to vote. You know, I wasn't really in on this 100%. But knowing Holly and her relationship with Jackson, that is highly unlikely. So Cliff says, we just have to take them at their word right now that they're not gonna, you know, screw us over and believe that they do want to go to the Final Four with us. He says it would make more sense. Think about it. If you were Jackson and Holly, would you rather go to the end with us, or do you want to go with Tommy and Christy, who are much better competitors and, let's face it, have made bigger moves in the game? So Nicole says, I don't know, I'm just screwed if you go home this week, because that would mean that Jackson and Holly are working with Tommy and Christy. And I don't know if I'll even be able to work with Jess, because she's like mad at me. Seriously, I can't believe how Jess freaked out on Nicole the other night. Like, can I really trust you? She's been questioning Nicole a lot about her friendship with Nick. She says it just doesn't make sense to her. She feels like Nicole has told her half-truths, blah, blah, blah. So Jess is not great at this game. But it's just, it's freaking Nicole out, because even if Cliff goes, she doesn't know if she can even rely on Jess. So Cliff says, don't worry, I'm pretty sure even if I do go up on the block, everyone is going to vote out Jess, no matter what happens. Okay, so Cliff says, if I do end up going this week, I want you to do whatever you have to do to make it to the final three. If that means going with Jackson and Holly still, great. If that means going with Tommy and Christy, great. But you just have to get there. So Nicole, she just can't get over the fact that Jackson found Cliff's veto, right? I mean, what the hell? So Cliff says, again, we're just gonna have to trust Jackson and Holly, because there's not really much other maneuvering that we can do. There's only so many other people left, so we kind of made our beds at this point. We gotta go along with it. Okay, so moving on. Yesterday evening, Holly is complaining more about how she's only going to be known for her showmance. You know what would definitely overshadow that? Maybe you should evict Jackson. People would definitely remember that. I mean, think about John and Netta from Big Brother Canada. Everyone's always like, oh my god, he cut his, like, showmance. I mean, they weren't technically a showmance, but, like, they were a really tight duo. So it would be like that, right? I would remember that. So then she was ranting to Christy about Jackson. Apparently Jackson is hung up on Holly calling him an effing a-hole. Where's the lie? I mean, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, blah, 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 all the things a duck does, maybe it's a duck. So Holly says Jackson's been ignoring her. He did not say good morning to her. He didn't say thank you when she brought him coffee. Or, looking back, maybe he did say thank you, but it was in a very dismissive way, and she didn't appreciate that. He barely touched her all night, the night before, and he made her move her stuff out of the HOH room after the lockdown. So she's saying she wants to talk things out with Jackson, but some of the things that she wants to talk about, she doesn't really want to get into, because there's cameras everywhere. They're on Big Brother, so they're under a microscope right now. So she says it's infuriating too, because he's so chipper and overly friendly with everyone else, and then he's just like completely ignoring her. And I think it's like triggering something with her, because apparently her ex-boyfriends have done that to her in the past. So Holly also says she blew a kiss to Jackson during the power veto competition, and he mouthed, something along the lines of like, I'm good. That's so effed. Even Christy at that point kind of laughed and she was like, oh, I love him and I hate him. Okay, so then Christy's advice to Holly was, why don't you just go lay next to him and act like nothing's wrong? What? That's horrible advice. That's horrible. And Holly's like, no, he'll just get up and walk away and then I'll feel even worse. So she's not going to do that. But 20 minutes later, Jackson and Holly were alone in the kitchen and he goes up to the HOH room. She follows him and she's like, can we talk? And she is sounding so upset at this point. You can tell she's on the verge of tears. Just want to note that at the beginning of this conversation or argument or Jackson being a jerk to Holly, Cliff is in the shower, so I'm sure he definitely heard part of this, but Jackson's like, sure, what do you want to talk about? Are you kidding me? So Holly is very upset. She's like, Jackson, why are you being so mean to me? And Jackson says, I'm not going to be talked to like that on national television. You called me an effing a-hole in front of 4 people in the house and... That was me, not him. You called me an effing a-hole in front of 4 people in the house and on national TV. He says my mom's going to hear that, my dad, my family, my friends. That's what you're worried about? They've seen a lot of other shit that I think you should be concerned about. Maybe like when you had sex with 2 other people in the room and on international internet. Anyway, he says he has done nothing but be supportive of her for 74 days. So Holly apologizes for what she said, for calling him an effing asshole, and she says she was frustrated, and she's asking him, do you see how I got to that point? Do you see why I said that? So I'm not gonna tell you guys like the whole rundown of the entire fight because this went on for hours. I mean, several, not a few, or not a couple, not a few, but several hours. And a lot of it was very repetitive, but I'm just giving you like the crux of what happened here. So then Jackson starts talking about how great he's treated Holly this entire time. Does he actually believe that? Because that's insane. But he says, you, on the other hand, have gone back and forth for 74 days, wondering whether you should even be with me. And you're wondering, you know, how am I going to affect your image? And am I jeopardizing your future? So he says, that's very hurtful, that I feel like you regret being with me and blah, blah, blah. So Jackson says he wants her to be happy and he feels like he can't make her happy. So I guess that's it. But I guess he's dumping her again. I don't know. But, he's like, I want your last like 3 weeks in here to be as happy as possible and for you to enjoy this experience. So he says, I'm not gonna let you embarrass me on national TV. And he's like raising his voice at this point. So what was the other thing I was gonna say that I didn't write down? I don't remember. This whole thing is insane. So he says he deserves better. And what she did to him really fits the mold exactly of every one of his exes. Maybe you're the problem? If you're having the same problem over and over again, maybe it's you. I don't know. So he says, I'm not doing this again. Not on CBS. He really said not on CBS. So maybe on ABC, maybe on NBC, I don't know, maybe Fox, maybe MTV. I'm sure he's angling for some sort of challenge gig. I don't know. But Holly is like straight up crying like hard at this point. Jackson says, we're about to be going into the final 6. We can't split up on a game level. Oh my god! I mean, it's true, but like, you're really gonna say that right now? She is freaking sobbing. So Jackson is hugging her, telling her not to cry, and she is full on sobbing at this point. So Holly, she keeps apologizing for calling him an effing asshole, and she's saying, you do make me happy, you're my safe space, blah, blah, blah. honestly, it's really difficult and uncomfortable to watch because I feel like I'm watching some sort of like effed up abusive relationship where he is manipulating the situation to make himself the victim and make her seem like this horrible person that is doing all these awful things to him. It's really messed up. So he continues to bring up how she has treated him poorly, but he's like basically been an angel to her and supporting her, and he's just been wonderful. No. Zingbot called you a pompous douchebag for a reason. And Holly is just making me really, really sad at this point. It's really, really sad to watch her like beg him basically to take her back. It's very upsetting. So like I said, this goes on for hours. There's a little bit of a break when they like go downstairs and, you know, talk to other people, whatever. But they pick it up again later because Holly is going to be sleeping in the HOH room, I guess just to keep up appearances, right? Because they don't want everybody else to know what's going on, but like everybody knows. So it just reminds me, side note, did anybody else watch that show Keeping Up Appearances? They used to show it on PBS. It's the British show. Oh, I love it. It's so nostalgic. But anyway, yeah, Holly is up in the HOH room again with Jackson, and Jackson keeps bringing it up over and over again that she called him an effing a-hole on national television in front of like half the house. Wow. So it's the same shit over and over, and it seems like they went to bed with their issues remaining unresolved because he was like, we'll talk about this in the morning after you slept on it. Ugh. So looking forward to that. Okay, so while all that was going down, this is the exciting part. So while all that was happening, Nicole was talking to Tommy in the hammock, and Tommy says, yeah, I'm probably going to use the veto on Christy because I don't want to risk her going. You never know what could happen if she stayed up on the block. So he says he's really scared going into next week because he kind of feels like he's on the outs. So Nicole says, okay, I want to ask you something, but I feel like it's not really an appropriate thing to ask, and you might not want to answer anyway. Yo, she wants to ask Tommy if he and Christy have a Final Four deal with Jackson and Holly, because Nicole and Cliff have been suspecting for a while that maybe Jackson and Holly are trying to play the middle, and Tommy and Christy have been wondering the same thing. So now they're finally, you know, gonna maybe compare notes here. So Tommy says, I think we're on the same page. Like, neither of them really want to like say exactly what they think is happening because they don't want to get in trouble if it gets out that they were talking about this. So Tommy says, I want you to know, whoever goes up as the replacement this week, whether it's you or Cliff, I want to keep that person because I want to work with you and Cliff. Are they gonna team up against Jackson and Holly or what? So Nicole says, again, she doesn't want to spell things out with names and everything, but Nicole says, camera was about to time out. Nicole says that she feels like there is a middle, and then they're hoping that the two sides are gonna go after each other and they'll just be able to skate on through to the end. That's what's happening. So Tommy agrees. He says, yeah, I feel like it's really weird that Jackson, I told Jackson that I was, you know, really considering using the veto on Christy, and he was really adamant about the replacement nominee staying this week. And Tommy says, don't get me wrong, like, I want the replacement nominee to stay too, but I just felt really weird that Jackson was pushing so hard for it. So then Nicole is like, well, I thought it was weird that Jackson was targeting Christy so hard, and then he decided to get rid of Sis, and like suddenly Christy's not on target anymore. Like, what's that all about? And then this week, Jackson wins HOH, and he targets the one person who's not in a tight duo. That's weird. Is he just doing that so that the other duos will go after each other? So Tommy says, we're on the same page. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. He says, you, me, Christy, and Cliff, again, he's not naming names, but he says all of us, but he's meaning those four, will have a better shot if we work together. So Nicole seems to be on board with that. She says it makes so much sense. She really felt like something was up, and now everything is making more sense. And she says a weight has been lifted. This is really exciting because I feel like if they have more of these conversations and this keeps progressing, that on Thursday in the double eviction, remember, Jackson's not going to be able to play. It's just going to be Holly playing for those two. If Holly doesn't win HOH, she or Jackson could be going to the jury house on Thursday. Oh my god! I would be all for it. I would love to see Cliff and Nicole team up with Christy and Tommy to go after Jackson and Holly. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Okay, so anyway, today, Nicole hasn't had a chance to really talk about this conversation with Tommy with Cliff yet. It seemed like she was about to tell him some stuff that Tommy was saying, but they were interrupted by other people. So I'm hoping Cliff will be receptive to what she says. And yeah, that's where we're at right now. The power of veto ceremony, I think it's still tomorrow. It's tough to say since tomorrow is a holiday. I'm not sure if they would do it early or late, but maybe they're just like, screw it, we're gonna do it on Monday anyway. But I think it's pretty safe to say that Tommy will be using the veto on Christy, and then Jackson will put up Cliff, and it seems set at this point anyway that Jess will be leaving this week. But it's gonna be interesting to see everything unfold here and see if everybody else decides to band together to go against Jackson and Holly. So it could be a fun week. It could be a lot of fun seeing this happen. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about all this. Are you pumped for this new plan? Or are you like, nah? Let me know. And until next time, much love.